There's always an intense rivalry when New Zealand play Australia in anything, and bowls is absolutely no different. Hello folks, and welcome along to day 3 of the 2011 TransTasman Test Series from the Waihopai Bowling Club in Invercargill. And Jim Scott, today we are in for another intense battle.
Absolutely, Phil. I think what we've had so far has been some absolutely magnificent bowls in some conditions, because we've had a lot of wind, but I think you'll quality of the bowls which we're going to see today.
This match we'll show you is the TransTasman Test between Australia and New Zealand in the singles. Sherriff from Australia, but it is Shannon McIlroy watching on the mat at the moment. Now Jim, in your job as the bowls development manager for the lower half of the South Island, you must have seen an incredible resurgence in not only the play, the development, the professionalism of bowls.
You're going a lot of change. We're like a lot of other sports. There's a lot of threats in our game these days. There's a lot of opportunities for people to play various different activities, and so we're competing in that entertainment market. It is a challenge, but I believe it's a challenge which we've got to accept. We've seen a significant growth in the number of people who are playing our game on a casual basis, and that is a pleasing aspect of our game. Club scene, it is difficult for a lot. We have a number of clubs in the lower half of South Island, so it's it is a challenge.
And what a wonderful club we've got here at Waihopai.
Well, Waihopai has got a very good tradition. It's been a club which has been around for a long, long time. I think it's about 120 years old, so it's been here for a long, long time. Got wonderful facilities here. The Waihopai Bowling Club have done a magnificent job in the preparation of the surface.
I guess we'll talk about this as the match continues, but the other thing that strikes me is the youth of the players these days.
Yes, well, you talk about youth, but youth have been around the bowls for quite a long time, but I guess probably the biggest change is, the two that we've got here. Shannon McIlroy is 24, and Sherriff, the Australian, is 25. So, if we go to the women's team, there are actually two 20-year-olds in the teams, and they've been playing bowls for a number of years.
Well, you mentioned the women's team. While we're concentrating in this first match, we will be showing you some women's competition this afternoon. Well, we're now in the feeling out stages, as I call it, in this TransTasman match. This is Shannon McIlroy. There's the state of the head. We've got overhead cameras, so we'll be able to keep you updated with everything that is happening here at Waihopai. And as I mentioned, this is day 3 of the men. Test 1, New Zealand took out the win, but in Test 2 the Australians came back at them. And in the women, well, it was all New Zealand. They won Test 1 and they won Test number 2. This is the decider. And Jim, we talked about it off air, but one of the considerations today is certainly going to be the weather. There is a very brisk blowing from left to right as we look at it from our commentary position.
Yes, there is a strong westerly today, but I believe that the singles game that they're playing on will have a little bit of protection from the fence which is over to the left side of them, and I make a big difference to the standard of bowls. So far, Sherriff has been unbelievable on the drives, and there's an example again. He's on the drive this time. I understand in the first played, he had 12 drives, he missed 1.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was in absolutely brilliant form.
And is that the come to expect from Australian sportsmen?
It's the aggressiveness, but I also believe it's a shot which he is very, I guess it's one of his expert shots, and he's done it very, very well.
Must be a little bit soul-destroying for Shannon. He builds a beautiful head there, and then the Aussie comes along and destroys it.
I think if we go back to the first test that was played, the standard absolutely exceptional in quite a strong wind, and played bad bowls, but he actually got beaten 21-12, so it probably shows that Aaron played out of his tree.
Well, as I mentioned, out period, but that one a little bit wayward there from Shannon. So in number 1 comes to an end.
And we're currently playing under the rules of the bowls of bowls into effect on the 1st of January in Australia, and they come 1st of April in New Zealand, but conditions, and one of those rules is that if you win the must take the mat and throw the jack for the following end. So that's been a change in our rules. So hence in this end, Shannon has taken the jack, and because he scored one on the first end.
So after one, it is 1-0.
Crack on your face, right?
So once again, Shannon just drawing out a little bit wide. Not a bad first up one, Jim.
Yes, he's about a metre wide as the jack, but his weight is just his line for the next shot. Aaron Sherriff is coming in close to the head and looks very well weighted.
Oh, that's a brilliant opener from the Australian. Plays out in New South Wales. Made his Australian debut back in 2007. He's a big bloke and he's a bit of an all-rounder. Played a fair bit of sport as a youngster, cricket, Aussie rules.
Yes, Aaron, a lot of sport, and of course I guess his performances, you go back to the World Championships in 2008 at the Burnside Club, and Aaron played in the final of the singles against Safwan Saad from Malaysia, and it was a brilliant. And that day was just too good.
So once again, Aaron on the backhand.
Once again, he looks to be very well weighted again, so bowl's coming right into the head, holding two very good shots.
And the crowd starting to build up here at Waihopai. This is test day number 3. It's test number 3. This is a great reply from Shannon McIlroy.
Just ended up a fraction short. He was trying to sit in on the two Sherriff bowls.
Helps, mate. Helps.
And let's look at this one. He's followed the bowl down.
Yeah, this time I believe he's just trying to provide a bit of cover for himself, so he's got something over the head, so he's a metre beyond the jack. Holding two very good shots. I think we might see McIlroy with some weight down the backhand.
So he wants to disrupt the two shot balls?
Well, I'm sure that he'll be looking to be in that area. It's the shot bowl is about 300 mils from the jack, so the second shot is just beyond that.
Mentioned the backstop, and if he drags the jack, that's what play.
That's right, yes. He's still trying to draw, or just at least rest into the bowls. And there's got to be very close with this one. Touched the jack as he stayed close enough. I believe he may have stayed for shot there, Phil.
Well, I think you're right, Jim, and I'll bow to your superior knowledge.
Well, we've got Ross Stewart as our marker for the day, and Ross has just indicated to us that it is 1-2 New Zealand. So, yeah, what a great bowl from Shannon McIlroy. And Shannon's got to get his confidence up, because Aaron has, in the first test and second test, has comprehensively, I guess, beaten him. So the scores are 21-12 in the first test, 21. So I believe it's a confidence thing, and he's got to get that working. We see Sherriff on the backhand again, coming down through. Got to be, oh, just touched his own bowl. And once again, Shannon McIlroy take a single and leads 2 shots to 0.
So, here in this singles competition, third and final from the Waihopai Bowling Club, and it's A big thank you to ILT and Vicargo Licensing Trust, and of course the Spark Community Trust of Southland. Of course, Bowls New Zealand's major sponsor, Hyundai and Tower. Great to have them on board, and great to have the sport of bowls back on your television screen. Is it true, Jim, that he who controls the match controls the match?
It's been an interesting scenario because we've been playing under the conditions that away the mat and give away the jack, but now they don't have a choice. So I believe we've brought one of the arts of the game back into it, that you must control the length of jack which you like. I think it's a very important part of the game is the throwing of the jack. They can throw short, long, medium end or whatever, and they can vary the mat placement. And I something back into our game actually.
And we see that quite a bit, don't we? Going right, suddenly you get the mat control, and you decide to change things up a bit. We might put a longer end in or a shorter end just to disrupt the feelings of the opposition. Yeah,
well, the players are always thinking and saying, well, what do I have to do to beat my opposition? Where is my strength? And we see what's happening at the present time. Over a medium length there, and that's what they've played for the first 3 ends. They'll keep it around about that length until somebody decides that they need to change and vary the conditions.
Shannon having a good long look at this one, and it's not a bad looking bowl either. And that's a cracker.
Yeah, once again he gets a toucher, so he'd be holding shot with that last bowl. Forced Aaron Sherriff into changing his hand, and he's going down the backhand side of the green, and he looks to be very much on target. Over to his weight now. Just got caught on his own bowl out on the left hand side. And McIlroy electing to stay on the forehand side of the green. A very good bowl, and it's an excellent behind the head.
Still like that,
Look at that deliberate of Aaron. Sort of ties his body up in knots a little bit.
Yes, but it's very compact, and
it works.
It does work for him, yes.
Can you let's go straight in? Can you go through there?
They'd have to shift the board.
So with competitors like this, how much is getting inside your opposition's head? You mean Aaron's beaten Shannon quite comprehensively in the singles competition?
Yes, and that will play on mind, because Shannon's got to be thinking, look, he's comprehensively, I'm not in the game, so I just need to be able to do something different today, to be able to turn the tables, and a big part of the singles game is getting your first bowl close, and that's the part that he's got to work on. He's got to get that first bowl, start building the head, so he starts dictating rather than, as I believe has happened in the last 2 games, he's been dictated too. Once again, he's on a very good track, and at this stage, yes, he was sitting there and be holding. Perhaps a little bit, may have made a target here. Sherriff on the drive.
Well, you heard Jim say earlier that he's the last 2 days he's only missed 1, so things aren't looking good if he is in fact going to drive. But you wouldn't read anything into his face. I just watched Aaron as he walked back to the mat. Oh, yeah, he's widening those shoulders. Here it comes. Force behind it as well. Is it on target? Ooh, no, it's not.
Has removed one of Shannon McIlroy's bowls, but I suspect that he's possibly still 2 down. We'll get an indication from the marker very shortly. Yes, and the marker to us that it's 2 to New Zealand. After 3 of the ends, score goes 4-0 to New Zealand.
So let's see the distance this time. McIlroy delivers for the jack. Shorter than the last end.
Yes, he's got the mat up a little bit at this time, so yeah, it possibly is about a 6. Now McIlroy started in the first end the last time, and he end this time back and start on the backhand. What an excellent start from this end. Touch it right.
Perhaps, Jim, that's the confidence that you talked about looking for. Perhaps he's found it.
Yes, and he needs to get that working. And I guess one of the confidence things for Aaron Sherriff is that he has to get his confidence up now, and perhaps the drive he missed, that just plays on his mind a little bit, because to be quite honest, he hasn't missed those drives in the last games, and so just, yeah, it'll be interesting.
Before, but you've already worked it out that the Australian bowls are, of course, the yellow bowls or the fluoro bowls.
Yes, they're very interesting colour, aren't they? They're basically a lime green with some yellow speckles in them. So I guess that's all the colour, green and gold. What an excellent bowl here from Sherriff, and it just still lies one to McIlroy. But a very good bowl, and gives him opportunities now with his next shot. Once again, McIlroy's coming down on the backhand, and he's getting very close to the head once again, and another touch. What an excellent bowl from Shannon McIlroy.
So looking from an overhead shot there, you see New Zealand holding. He's just come up a little bit short there.
Yes, he's just a touch short, and it won't actually help him because he's got to play some weight to this head with his next bowl. But possibly it's for the position of the bowl. I think we would see at this stage that McIlroy might opt to get a bowl over the head. The back bowl is the Australian bowl of Sherriff.
3 feet over, mate.
McIlroy has changed his hand. I think we'll see that he's trying to get just in beyond the head. Quite often happens when you change your hand, you've just got to use a little bit extra weight, and he's dropped short, unfortunately.
Well, chill.
Well, the intention was there, the execution just a little bit off that time for McIlroy. He plays Aaron Sherriff. This is test number 1 of day 3 of the TransTasman. That last year Australia took the title, but the year before New Zealand took it, but on Australian home ground in Brisbane, and there's quite a story about that, Jim.
Yes, well, over the last year they were intending to go to play the Test series and try and replicate the conditions that they were to be playing in the Commonwealth Games. But I think it was the cost factor that probably got in the way there, and they certainly played on a carpet last year, so they could play in a similar condition to what they experienced at the Commonwealth Games in India.
So that drive coming in from remove one of his bowls and one of Shannon McIlroy's bowls, but the New Zealander still held the one shot, and he goes out to a 5. Is number 5. I guess both these guys come into this tournament fairly bowling hot, if you like. I mean, New Zealand's just gone through the Nationals, Australia's gone through their big... Their club competition is intense as well.
Yes, absolutely. There's been a lot of top-line bowls in the last, 3 months or so, yeah. And of course, Sherriff, he plays in the New South Wales, and that's a magnificent competition. I would suspect one of the best competitions in the world, and the participate over the place. I mean, there's South Africans, there's Scotsmen, there's Australians, of course, and a number of New Zealanders. And a number of New Zealanders are based at the Cabramatta Bowling Club, and this won the premiership. So I guess the Kiwis were pretty proud of that. One of our stalwarts of the game, and Peter Bellis is the...
Oh, you've just read my mind, because I was going to say flag sort of thing.
Yes, well, the comments that I've heard over recent times is that Peter Bellis is playing as good a bowls as he's ever played. So, and that's great when you're Peter Bellis' age. I think he's 59 at the present time. So that's great for him.
What an amazing career. He's been so good for so long.
Yes, well, Peter's probably lived in Australia now for the last 20 years and played it, basically playing bowls, and he's currently the at Cabramatta. So he's had a wonderful life and wonderful experience, but his performances have been exceptional as well.
And again, in sports now in New Zealand, people that are coming through the grades, like the young people that are looking to make bowls their sporting career, can see not so much a career path, but certainly an opportunity that they probably didn't see 5 or 6 years ago.
That's totally correct. The whole scene has changed. I guess one of the examples is, and one of the players that has got is Matt Gallup. Now, Matt's come out of the Blenheim area and played some very good bowls. He's come through the secondary school system and very, very well for himself. This year, of course, was the Player of the Year at the National Championships, where he got runner-up in the pairs with Ali Forsyth, and then with Ali and with his father, they went on to win the Champion Four. So he had an exceptional year, and he was Player of the tournament. But I believe his game has gone from, has strengthened a considerable amount, and that would be put down to the experience that he's getting in playing in top-level competition week in, week out in Australia.
And really, in any sport, there's no substitute for top-level competition.
Well, it just and it doesn't matter what sport you play, as you say, and you've got to play in, and keeps you sharp, it keeps you on top of your game. You're not always going to be playing your best, but the consistency of playing well, and it just reflects on that.
Examples of that is the youth academy for golf. A lot of the young golfers playing over in Australia now, and there's quite a few similarities, isn't there, between golf and the sport of bowls? There's rhythm, there's swing, there's the perfection of the shot.
I believe the two sports are very closely linked, despite the fact that one's played with some clubs and the other ones you play just a bowl in your hand, so they're quite different from that aspect, but there's a lot of similarities between our sports and the concentration is required in the game. We're just seeing McIlroy on the forehand running at the Sherriff bowl and has just caught the edge of it, and I would say now that McIlroy is holding 2 shots, so what an excellent shot from him. Yes, so we're talking about the similarities between golf and in my role that I have working with bowlers, we're very close. We communicate a lot with the golf people because they are experiencing similar difficulties in their sport. Have a huge number of golf clubs in the country, and we have a huge number of bowling clubs in the country, and trying to get our clubs to be stronger and to be adjust to what's happening in today's world. Our world has changed around us, and sometimes our sport is a little slower in adapting to those changes.
Well, the head's changed as well, because Shannon's bowls didn't do it, removed his own bowl, so definitely New Zealand holding 2 now.
And this is completely surprising because Sherriff on, I think, 3 upshots now, 3 drives or upshots, and he hasn't got the result that he's been looking for. That's a huge change from the last 2 days.
It's a correction, New Zealand taking 3 on that end. Notice the shadows form on the green here at Waihopai, and that's because thankfully the sun has decided to shine and the wind just a tad, Jim. And I was talking to some of the guys when we were setting up this morning, and I said, what would you prefer, wind or rain? And they said, well, we don't want the wind.
Yeah, I guess there's a fine balance between it all, but the wind is very difficult because it affects the course of the bowls, and so they've got to try and read the wind, and when the wind is gusting, it makes it very difficult for them to adapt. In light rain is actually, there's no problems. The surface doesn't get affected by light rain, so it's very, very well. But if you play in wind, you're getting your bowls getting affected. Of course, if it rains too heavy, we've got to work it. In the room we can't play. So two very good bowls from both Sherriff and McIlroy at the start of the 16. Yeah, it's Shannon McIlroy, and you can see the concentration on his face, and he's willing his bowl to get closer to the head.
So we start in number 6 here at Waihopai. It is 8-0 to New Zealand, so absolute turnabout of fortunes from what we've seen in the last 2 tests. Another great bowl there.
Aaron Sherriff, that's a beauty. That's the best bowl he's played this morning, and it's right in front of the jack. Shannon McIlroy. What sort of shot he's going to play? He's presently asking Marker what the positioning of the bowl in relation to the jack.
Stop bowling my bowl related to each other.
Asking a lot of questions to try and determine the exact position, and may elect to come and have a look at it. No, he's not. He's going to, I suspect, work down through the backhand and try and work off his own bowl.
He's taking his time, and why wouldn't he? This is an important shot. He's gone with the backhand. He's got a fair bit of weight on it, Jim.
Yes, he's certainly playing with weight. And once again, as I said, I believe he's trying to work off his own bowl, but he's just come up a little narrow. Perhaps didn't have the weight that he was looking for.
Here's a reply now coming from Aaron Sherriff from New South Wales in Australia. Represented his country 50. Oh, and this is another good bowl. Oh, and he's got a bit there as well, the way it's tilted over.
Yes, yeah, it'll be very close for second shot, but yeah, very good bowl. He was looking, of course, to get the inside edge of McIlroy's bowl and just working it tightly. Or push McIlroy's bowl through. Now that, the way it's lying currently, McIlroy's bowl is sitting right against the Sherriff bowl. That's the second and third shot. McIlroy will be looking to draw the shot, or just overdraw weight using his own bowl.
Where's up? To the road now.
You mentioned before the concentration, and obviously that's important. So someone watching this that's playing bowls as a development manager, oh, big draw, big drive coming in here, and he's missed everything. Oh, and it slams into the grass as well. Man, that had some power. If someone that's watching, maybe playing business house bowls, what's the biggest improvement they can take from watching this and take to their game?
Yes, well, I guess it's the concentration levels of the players. The players, they're so intense and so concentrated on what they're doing. Now, when we get to business house bowls and a lot of the casual bowls, about the enjoyment that they're going to have in the game, and so I guess there's a lot more hilarity around. At this level there's not a lot of hilarity, but they can actually learn from these guys and look at the concentration levels that they're putting into the game.
Well, no hilarity, but I suggest a fair bit of tension here in this singles test match. It's the 2011 TransTasman Test Series coming to you from the Waihopai Bowling Club, and that one's just come up a little.
Yes, he was obviously trying to get a little play up to McIlroy's ball out of it. How many shots it is. Shannon McIlroy intensely. And it's decided to bring out the measure.
Yeah.
But this is the sixth end, and it's the first time that Aaron Sherriff has scored. It's just a matter of whether it's a 1 or a 2.
So taking his time about the measure, and why would TransTasman supremacy.
Looking at Ross Stewart, the marker, just to give us a yes, Australia are on the board, and it's a 2. So after 6 ends, New Zealand, Shannon McIlroy is 8, and Australia, Aaron Sherriff on 2.
And now we're going to see coming into play what we talked about earlier about the Australians now controlling the not only the length of the end but also the mat position.
Well, he's taken the mat right back to the 2 metre mark, and he's put the jack right up on the top end to the 2 metre mark, so it's actually a full.
Oh, and that's a great opening bowl again from the Australian.
Seen in the last 2 ends, he's got his, and this is what's making a massive difference, and it automatically puts your opposition in a defensive role. McIlroy's bowl, once the Australian puts a first bowl close, McIlroy's got to try and get another bowl close, not necessarily the shot, but get a bowl close so he can actually start to work off it.
And this is what you were talking about before about.
It's certainly, it's very much about you build the head the way that you see it, and if you can control the game, it can make a massive difference to the way it's played. Once again, an excellent bowl from just opened up the jack a little bit though, so it gives for McIlroy to make sure he's going to reach it. McIlroy there on the mat, playing down the forehand again. Balls have come down his forehand, in fact a lot down that side of the rink.
That's another fantastic McIlroy.
What an excellent shot. We haven't got any indication as yet. Shot.
The big Australian goes into that very familiar crouch position. So this one's coming in with a bit of weight on it, but certainly not the aggressiveness we've seen of him before.
Ross Stewart indicated that he was holding shot. Played the perfect bowl just in behind the head. Gives himself position. So McIlroy on the forehand. Has he got the weight to reach the head? Because he needs to be right through in there. Just looks like it's pulling up short.
And Sherriff's been down to have a look.
Yes, the marker Ross Stewart has just indicated that Australia are holding the shot, so Aaron Sherriff can't afford to be too heavy into there. Could possibly look to go just around the head and put another bowl just over.
No, because the tiniest mistake, and he's going to promote Shannon McIlroy's bowl, isn't he?
Yeah, he's certainly going to promote the jack towards McIlroy's bowl.
Well, there's no messing around with. Gets about the job pretty quickly, and that one's, well, I suggest to you, Jim, that one probably wanted it to.
Certainly did not. He wasn't trying to put the ball back in the ditch, that's for sure. Interesting. Sherriff is just quick on the mat. He plays around. There is no mucking around. We'll see McIlroy will come back and he'll play the forehand as well again, and he'll be just looking to touch the jack into his own bowl, which is directly beyond the jack.
competition's holding up and so are the temperatures. You see Shannon's taken the jacket off, so he's getting serious.
And that's great to see, because I mean it's great to have the conditions that for today. Wasn't particularly good in the earlier stages of the week. It's wonderful that we've got sunshine again today.
So the Australian just the one. It comes 8-3 now as we move into the 8th end. Once again, the Australian controls the matter. Just wonder if he's going to throw another long end here. He seems to favour them.
It's magnificent up there. It is, yeah.
Phil, I believe what's happened there is that he's just, Aaron Sherriff is trying to disrupt the pattern which Shannon McIlroy set in the early stages of the game, where he was scoring on the middle length ends, and of course he's got to alter it. He's done so very successfully so far. Another very good opener from Aaron Sherriff. He's just short of the jack. Very, very good opener.
Turning now. From McIlroy.
Good reply is possibly about the jack, but certainly he wasn't going to be short of it.
And as a general rule, Jim, is it that the jacket's not so good?
Well, the situation is that the jack very seldom the green. If the jack is hit, quite often, most times it's going back. It only ever if it has a hole that's at the back and then comes. All players are very conscious that the fact that a short bowl, generally speaking, is not much help to them. A short bowl, let's say, just in front of the jack, but only just a small distance is okay, but it's better that the bowl is just in beyond the jack.
Camera, the Australian holding one shot at the moment. This one's coming in with a bit more weight as well, and Sherriff is going to. I think he likes the look of this, Jim.
Just clenched his fist. He's happy with that ball. Directly in behind the jack.
Come on, Jim. Well played, Jim. Very good. Little touch is good.
Beautiful example of a from Shannon McIlroy, and it's inch perfect like that every single time, and I guess at this level that's the secret.
Well, the secret is consistency, and the way you get consistency is have a delivery which produces the same movement each time. Or we won't be happy. It's about a metre short. Currently, Sherriff is holding 2 shots.
Well, it took for the Australian to triple the scorers. In N7, it's 8-3.
Very good effort, mate. Very good there, well done. Touch is fine.
So certainly, Phil, the change of length has made a considerable difference to the game. Enabled Aaron Sherriff to get his first bowl close, and that has dictated the last 3.
Gee, he knocked that one too. Oh, wouldn't he?
Once again, bowl from Sherriff, and he's currently holding 3 shots.
Stand by, mate.
I detect a little concern on the face of Shannon, slowly walking back to the mat, deciding exactly to be playing.
Under the rules, Jim, can he ask for advice from a coach, a mentor or something like that on the sideline?
Yes, certainly can. Each team has a coach and an assistant coach. New Zealand, the coach, of course, is Dave Edwards, and he's entitled to go and ask Dave Edwards for advice. Dave is not allowed to actually go onto the green, but he is able to get on the sideline. So Dave's the coach. The assistant coach for the men is Terry Scott, and the assistant coach for the women is Raylene Peters.
He's got rid of one.
Certainly he's just has moved one. Moved it far enough for you to decide. Sherriff's having a very good look at the head to see whether...
No, what's Ross Stewart going to say here, 1 or 2?
There's definitely 2, and it's just the possibility of whether it possibly could be 3. Definitely 2 shots there. I suspect it's a 3. We're just waiting there. Yes, that's right. Brings the score through to now on 6 and Shannon McIlroy on 8. So a considerable change since the length of the jack has been out to the longer ends.
You wouldn't have to be a betting man to bet that will continue.
Well, that's it. Obviously he's going to continue with the mat right back and the jack right down the other end. We just got to see whether he's thrown the jack correctly. And the jack has gone into the ditch now. This could make a considerable change again because it gives McIlroy to change the length of the head. The first thing he does is pick up the mat and take it up the green.
Now, if you and McIlroy, you'd be rolling a medium end here, wouldn't you?
Well, I would suspect that the jack will go to about a medium length. He's taken the mat about 2 metres further up the green. Of course, the jack is back about 2 metres further, shorter at the other end of the green as well. Back to the length where McIlroy was scoring on the earlier ends in the game.
Now, can Aaron Sherriff adapt quickly? Well, you'd have to say
yes there. What a very good start. Once again, that first bowl, it's a key bowl to come at the end, and it puts pressure on you.
Follow him down here. That's a great reply.
Yes, very good. Just got an edge off the shot bowl. Close to a metre in behind. But we are back at the length that McIlroy was playing very well. Sherriff has opted to make sure that he's got this one up as well. McIlroy on the ball, just coming into the head, very close there, played a brilliant ball. Shannon McIlroy.
Shot to New Zealand.
It's not only shot to New Zealand, it's a very good ball because it's directly in behind the jack.
Come on, Julie!
It's a good ball by Sherriff, but he's just in behind the head. Currently 1 shot to New Zealand.
That beautiful delivery stroke of McIlroy on the forehand again. A man from Nelson.
Of course, Philly hasn't always been from the Nelson district. He's a couple of years, but he's originally from the Gisborne East Coast area, so one of the finest bowlers New Zealand has had, and coming from a small area such as the Gisborne area, so and it's a great credit to them, the programs that they've actually been running in that region to develop the. So he's down getting a sunshine, a little nasty sunshine at the present time. But we're lucky. We're here in a lot of Invercargill sunshine.
Right, some beautiful sound, which is fantastic. Just tuned in, you're watching the 2011 TransTasman Test Series coming to you from the Waihopai Bowling Club in Invercargill. And we're at a delicate stage in this singles match. It is 8 seconds. You're just watching Aaron Sherriff on the mat now. And Shannon McIlroy, the New Zealander, has changed the game up just a little bit, because over the last few ends we've seen that when Sherriff was controlling the mat, he rolled the long end and capitalised on that. On the rolled the jack the wrong way, one end to go, and we've gone back to a mid-end now for Shannon McIlroy. You can see there.
Marker Ross Stewart is indicating McIlroy is holding shot, and McIlroy has elected not to play his last ball. He's only played the 3 during the head, so he's elected not to play the last ball. So yes, the change of that's made a difference again, because we see McIlroy now out to 9, and of course in the singles game it's the race to the first to 21, so a lead of 3.
The changing fortunes of this game, because from end number 6 the Australian was 8 zip down, and he's put in 3 ends, put on, so anything can happen.
Yes, I believe he's just shown his class, that's all, and it's yeah. And as we said, we talked about a lot, it's just the change of length and the change of circumstances. Of course now the jack, because he's won the last end, and he's elected of course again to go to that medium length. He's got the mat up about 2 metres up the track, and the jack of course about 2 metres short of the maximum length, and once again has opened with a very good bowl.
Well, we mentioned before about the quickness of Aaron Sherriff's game, and it's a feature today. He doesn't mess around. Shannon's bowl had just virtually still, and Aaron was away.
Aaron's away. That's the way he plays, though. I mean, and he doesn't muck around. He obviously assesses the situation very, very quickly, and on the mat, let it go. And just would be a little disappointed with his last bowl. And it's giving McIlroy the chance to put another one in on the head. Just going in. McIlroy's bowl hardly gets a chance to stop, does it? And Sherriff is on the mat, he's down there, he's as keen as mustard. Got a very well weighted shot. Certainly McIlroy, he has shot.
Score in number 9, as Jim told you, it's and it'd be fair to say, Jim, in the last 2 it hasn't been this close.
Well, certainly we talked about that. Oh, what an excellent bowl from McIlroy, and he's just turned the Australian bowl out by a little bit, and we're getting an indication from the marker that it's possibly one.
Here comes the power shot.
Yeah, interesting, he was off target, has got a result, but it's still one to New Zealand. But Sherriff over the last 2 days just didn't miss, and we've seen him just been off target a little. So it's yeah, interesting.
So interesting stages here in the singles competition, Australia versus New Zealand, the TransTasman Test Series. McIlroy from New Zealand on the mat now, one of the Blackjacks as they're known, playing Aaron Sherriff from Australia, from New South Wales. And it is the Kiwi on top. And if you go back over the last couple of days, it hasn't always been that way.
So again, McIlroy stays on the backhand, but I don't think he's got sufficient weight this time. He's come up a good metre short of the jack. It just could be directly in, may block a drive from Sherriff. He may have to pay weight down the preferred backhand side, and certainly
he's missed it completely.
Yes, yeah, once again he's missed his drive.
That little bit of luck's deserted him. He hasn't got the rub of the green.
So once again, McIlroy retains the mat, and that, if we recall, it all goes back to where Sherriff was, and just threw it too long into the ditch, gave McIlroy an opportunity to change the length, and the two ends that have followed, he scored 2 singles, and now, as we say, has gone out to a 10 shots to 6 lead.
Where'd your mate go? Where'd Jonesy go?
We see a medium length delivery of the
Shots. First to 21.
Can Aaron Sherriff adapt a little bit quicker? Because this is going to get to a stage about this. He's 4 shots behind at the moment. Jim say it's a race to 21. And command.
In command, but we can see how quickly fortunes can change, and when Aaron Sherriff decided to score, as we say, 3 ends later he scored. So it can change quite rapidly, but what an excellent starting bowl from Shannon McIlroy, right close to the jet. This I don't know how many times, but that bowl, that first bowl is just the crucial one, and it sets up the head. But what an excellent reply here from Aaron Sherriff. He also has touched the jack and has just fallen back off it. Be very tight in the shot.
Now these are haven't seen bowls on TV for quite a while. The chalk's gone. They're using this bay now.
Yes, I noticed in the conditions of play that they're actually not allowed to use chalk any longer, and it's got to be the liquid chalk in the spray can, and intention behind that, because if a bowl is on an angle, there is an opportunity if you're trying to chalk it that you can actually knock the bowl, and it can move slightly, and so I think the intention is with the spray. Very little chance of moving it. Oh, once again a very close bowl from Aaron Sherriff, but we've just had an indication from Ross New Zealand one, and Shannon McIlroy is elected to go to the head and have a look, obviously to see what he should be playing. Just from the setup there, it's although McIlroy is holding shot, the advantage lies with Sherriff, and the shot to promote his own bowl onto the New Zealand bowl.
Oh! Good catch.
And they can take as long as they like, examining the head and working out what they have to do, or is there a time limit on that?
No, there isn't a time limit, but both players are conscious that they want to keep the game moving along as well, and they don't want to be out there just looking at heads. They want to be out there drawing shots. That's what they're there for. We've just seen a couple of gusts of wind go across the greens, and one of the umbrellas went flying into the stand in the crowd, so just let's hope it doesn't go.
And we saw here from Shannon McIlroy.
Elected to change his hand, and he needed to do that as well, so down the backhand. Playing with a touch of weight, so it's a very interesting shot. And what he was trying to do was to split the two Australian bowls, and I guess reduce the opportunity for the Australian to play the shot that was available to him. So it's both players thinking very clearly as to what they want to be doing.
Now looking at that overhead, it's going to make it very hard for Aaron to try and kill this.
Just be interesting the shot that he actually plays. Yeah, he's got two very close bowls, but any weight and the jack is going to move back towards any minor weight. Let's see what he's playing. He's elected to change his hand as well, and has opted to go down the green. Be looking to get onto his own bowl, and if he gets that directly and onto the New Zealand shot.
Oh, it's close now, Jim. It's close now.
Close. New Zealand ball's too low, but once Ross Stewart has indicated to us that New Zealand are still holding one, but I believe he's up and created more opportunity, which once again we see Shannon McIlroy this time running down the green to have a look and to see what shot he needs to play.
Well, you called it perfectly. That's exactly what Aaron Sherriff did, didn't it? He used the ball to just take the shot, or try and take the shot.
Yes, yeah, he was trying to get his own bowl onto the shot bowl and stay there. Just didn't quite get it perfect. Oh, and I mean that's close. So we're just going to see what Shannon McIlroy elects to do on this end.
So in number 10, 10-6 the score here at Waihopai. It is day 3, the all-important final test day, Australia versus New Zealand.
So Shannon McIlroy is elected to go back to the hand, is drawing in close to the head, just going to go underneath the second shot of Australian.
Come hard, mate.
Sherriff very quickly on the mat, he's made his to do, and he'll be looking to come down there, play through the middle and sit the New Zealand ball, and he's played it perfectly. What a great shot from Aaron Sherriff. 3 Australia.
Well, now it gets interesting. 10-9. Is this the comeback? Are we going to see now the long end?
The mat is right back on the 2 metre mark. Sherriff lining up the jack.
Yeah, it's going all the way.
Throw it correctly this time though, Phil.
That's right.
Won't want to be putting it in the ditch and giving McIlroy an opportunity. Yes, he hasn't quite got it to the full 2 metre mark, but he's certainly got it up in that area.
Now, are we going to take another plot twist here at Waihopai? Because as we mentioned to you before, every time that Aaron Sherriff has been in control of the mat, he's thrown a long end and he's capitalised. And now it's 10-9. Remember, it's a race to 21, and that's not a bad opener for the Australian.
Just a little short, but yeah, reasonably close.
Right, Smithy.
McIlroy coming into the head. Is he going to grab the jack? He has. It's moved in. It actually takes the jack away from the Australian bowl and it makes it a little shorter. Aaron Sherriff once again quickly on bowls coming into the head. Has he got the right pace? Very close. Very close. If it falls in, it'll be shot.
Sits up.
On you, hurry. Yeah, well done, Scott, you're in.
Oh, it's just going to be a tad short, is it?
Yes, yeah, it is a short one again. Ball's just come to rest and there's Sherriff on the mat. This time he'll be looking to get around his short front bowl, just get around it with a touch of weight.
He's going to do it.
He's around it. Has he got the weight? Very close. Just touched the New Zealand bowl, but it's currently 1 to New Zealand.
Now, we've been talking about the marvels of the skills that these guys possess, but what about the adaptability? Because suddenly your mindset changes from a short end to a long end, and then it gets even longer or even shorter. You've got to be able to change on the spot.
Yes, well, but that's what all the practice that they've put in over the years, and of course all the high-level competition that we spoke about. It is about adapting to changing conditions. I mean, if anybody's got to adapt, mostly it's the Australians who are on our territory at this stage, and they're trying to adapt to our conditions, and particularly the fact that our surface is quite different to the surfaces that they play in Australia. They generally use a grass surface over there. Most of them is an American Tiftdorf which is used, whereas we use the Cotula, which and the home of Cotula is actually here in Southland. So it's great that they're actually on and the Cotula, different varieties of Cotula, but the one that we've got here is a Dioka Cotula, and I know the greenkeepers here are extremely proud of the surface which they produce, and it's just pure Dioka, so it's surface.
So that changes the green speed, Australia, New Zealand?
Yes, you can. Australia would play on the speed. We're running at about 15 and a half, 16 seconds, somewhere in that area, and that's a speed which they're used to as well. Particularly in their winter on the Gold Coast, Queensland, their speeds are good. When you get into the southern part in the Victoria area, and they're playing bowls down there, a lot of the speeds of the greens are more around the 12 to 13 seconds. Slower. Generally it's a couch grass which they use in that area. Don't have so much of the tift off, so quite a different
Expert comments coming from the lower half of the South Island Bowls officer, and there's not a lot he doesn't know about the sport of bowls. Part of the Scott dynasty in New Zealand bowls.
Yeah, just Sean these days to keep the name up, because I think we've done our dash. McIlroy playing with he set the Australian bowl, he's moved the jack. It appears that it could be 3 shots to New Zealand. We'll just get an indication from Mark or Ross Stewart. Yes.
Yes, he has.
So a great reply to the 3 that dropped the previous. Now New Zealand have gone out to a 13 to 9. 2 big ends, the last 2 ends, 2 last bowls.
Well, we see maybe a longer end. Shannon.
I suspect that probably is a mistake rather than anything else. He would not have intended to go to that length. So once again, as we talk about the ability to throw the jack and deliver it to the length that you require, my suggestion is here that he has not quite got his length correct. Certainly got his mat up about a couple of metres, so it's not quite a full length end. And his first bowl's just a little bit wayward as well, so it's gone a good metre behind the jack. But we're seeing, Phil, the quality of bowls is very much what we these 2 players. Look, they're world class. New Zealand and Australia are number 1 and 2 in the world in bowls, and we would expect to have an extremely high level of high level of expertise. So.
Having a good long, and I think he likes what he's seeing. I'm sure he likes what he's seeing.
Yes, well called, Phil. Yes, what a great bowl from Shannon McIlroy. Not very short on, just looking to put on it. Just the initial 4 bowls, they much about building the head, creating the opportunities for the last bowls where they tend to play with a little bit more weight if they're down, of course. If they're not down, if they're holding shot, you're just trying to build the position.
Between number 12, 13-9 the score. Shannon McIlroy from New Zealand just asking questions there before he gets down to business once again. And it's been a bit of a seesaw match because the Australian didn't trouble the scorer until end number 6. Make it end 8-2. And then he held on to the mat for 3 ends and went from 2 to 6. By end number 9, the Kiwi was back in front. It was 9-6, end number 10, 10-6, and then in end number 12, when we're playing now, the current score is 13 to 9 after Shannon McIlroy took a 3 in end 11, and this is another, not a bad, but maybe a little bit short.
Yes, he's just come up a little touch short. What he's trying to do was get round the Australian bowl, but what's happened is it's forced Australian on the backhand, and he'll be playing with weight, looking to sit on the New Zealand shot bowl. Just goes a touch wide of it. The perfect weight to sit the New Zealand ball back. Shannon McIlroy's answer to this is he has to get another bowl on the head, whether he stays on that forehand, and I suspect he will try and stay there because that's where he's drawn. Whenever he's gone over to the backhand, he's just slightly short, so I think you'll see him try and get another bowl just on your screen as you're looking at it now. He'd be just slightly to the side of the jack.
And I guess just like tennis, they'd have strong hands, forehand or backhand. Most of them would be stronger on the forehand than the backhand.
Yes and no. Some players are predominantly strong on one hand. I would suspect the two players that we wouldn't matter what hand they play. They've got to be adaptable to the forehand or backhand. Particularly if you've got wind conditions and one side of the rink is better than the other, draw, you're getting a better run into the head. Or, sometimes the green conditions can dictate it, and the green may not be playing as even on one side or the other, and so they've got to be able to.
Yeah. Well, it was a forehand that time for Shannon McIlroy, but it's just come up a little bit short.
Yes, he was trying to add another bowl on the head, another shot actually, but he's left it open a wee bit, but not. Perhaps he's got in the way of Sherriff playing the backhand shot that he played with his bark last bowl, so we'll be interested to see what he's going to do here. Yes, it has to change over onto the forehand, but he'll be playing with weight down on the forehand, looking to promote his own bowl onto the New Zealand shot. Very close. Clip the jack, and it's gone through to his own bowl at the back of the head. And one shot to Australia, so after 13 ends, and the rest of 21, it is New Zealand 13 and Australia 10.
What's that saying in sport? I'd rather be lucky than good.
Oh, he was right on target. He was right in the target area, not quite what he was looking for, but certainly right in the target area and got a result.
Coming up here for the Australian.
Well, it should be, shouldn't it? Yes, yeah, and he's just short of the foot. He's certainly got his mat right back on the 2 metre mark. The lime green bowl with the yellow speckles of Aaron Sherriff is on its way. Come to rest.
Just look to turn your arm.
I love the way that Shannon gets a bit of a tilt on his body as he's watching the ball come down.
Yes, if we could. One of the most amazing shots is we've got some film, some coaching films for bowls, and some of it is of Shannon McIlroy and his delivery, which is exceptional and very consistent. Part of it is actually, it focuses on facial movements, and it's a wonderful video because it just tell a whole story to themselves, and it's a wonderful wonderful version. So look at the concentration on McIlroy as delivers that ball.
Well, often all sorts of sports you can read a lot. When the face tightens up, that normally means the body's in a bit of stress.
One of the prominent ones that you're talking about is perhaps Tiger expression on Tiger Woods. Particularly when he hits a good shot, you don't see much movement. But when he hits a shot which he's not happy about, boy oh boy, you know about it.
The movement's normally the club flying through the air.
Did you right?
You know, one thing we haven't talked about a little bit, Jim, is the fact that this is quite demanding, both physically and certainly mentally.
Yes,
You guys have been playing for a while now.
Yes, and as we say, this is the third and last day of the Test series. Whilst it's physical, it's that you walking. They're up and down to the head. Once again, we see both players have come to this head. So, there's a lot of physical aspects of that, and there's a physical aspect on the mat as well, just maintaining stability and while you're delivering your bowl. But I guess the biggest part, in which plays up at the end of a long day, and if you're out there for 6 to 8 hours playing bowls, the mental concentration that you have to keep up over that period. We see Sherriff on the drive. He seems to be on. That's the shot that we've been seeing for the last 2 days.
There's a bit of a... Maybe he realises that maybe the magic's come back.
What's happened here is the jack has actually bounced out of the ditch. Yeah, we didn't see the camera shot, but the jack has actually bounced out of the ditch, and it's just over 2 metres out and out near the side peg of the rink. Just as we haven't had any indication as yet that it possibly even 2 shots to New Zealand at this stage with 1 bowl to go. So it's a disappointing result because he played a good shot and hasn't got the result that he was looking for.
And I see that Ross Stewart went down there and marked the Australian balls. It's in the ditch as well, or very close to it.
Yeah, no, the Australian bowl is certainly in the ditch. 2 New Zealand bowls that were the shots are still on the green, and McIlroy is making sure that he comes back into the rink. He doesn't want to go wide. What have we shot? We're having a look. And Ross Stewart has just indicated to us that up a 3, and I would suspect that's a 3 because Sherriff played and didn't get the result that he was looking for. Unfortunately, the jack has bounced out of the ditch.
Before about the physical attributes, and I just made a bit of a note to myself. You compare, say, cricket, Shannon McIlroy probably in the bill. A sort of young whippet, Aaron, or a Jesse Ryder.
Yes, very similar attributes, yes, yeah.
I'd like to say they're both not fit, because I'm sure they are. You don't get to be the best in your country without putting in a whole lot of work.
High performance programs in both countries are very good. Reflection also of the both countries, as I mentioned before, that they're first and second in the world in the rankings. Part of their program is the fitness programs which they maintain right throughout. So a lot of the players are gym work or other fitness exercises to keep up to make sure they're in prime condition when they're out on the green. And it's also the ability, as I said before, to maintain the levels, and so fitness is a big part of that as well.
Yeah, because there's no doubt about it, when you get tired, you see.
Do you ever? Yeah.
We're playing in 15. It is 16-10 to New Zealand. Important day 3, third test, third day of the here at Waihopai. You're watching this. Australia playing Shannon McIlroy of New Zealand. New Zealander on top.
Very good bowl from Aaron Sherriff, but he may have come up just short. Possibly is still 1 shot to New Zealand, but it's very close. McIlroy puts another bowl just in behind the head, so they're very good position bowls, but Sherriff has got an opportunity. He'll play down the backhand. He'll be looking to sit the New Zealand, turn it back a couple of rolls. It looks to be very close on target, and certainly that's exactly what he's played. At least 1,
possibly 2.
Ross Stewart has just indicated to us that it's 2 shots to Australia, so what an excellent bowl from Aaron Sherriff. We're getting to a very interesting stage of the game. New Zealand out to 16 shots to 10, and it's It's getting to the stage, you know, where they're looking to peg up to 21. Whereas Aaron Sherriff at this stage, he's looking to score so as he can actually just still remain in close contact.
Lesser individuals, it'll be so easy now.
Yes, yeah, that can play a part, but it won't play a part with these players. They know what they've got to do. So we see McIlroy has now changed his on the backhand, but he's playing a lot more weight than what Sherriff played with.
There's the take.
What a magnificent shot from Shannon McIlroy. Certainly something that he hasn't played days, well, not as accurately as that, and that would be one of the top shelf.
No disrespect to Shannon, but was he trying to remove both there? I thought he was going for one and fortuitously he got both.
He's looking to disturb it. You know, if he gets one out, great, but the opportunity to get two is, yes, I mean, it's got to work perfectly for you, but that's the area that he was looking to play into. Here we see Sherriff.
Oh, he's missed again! Unbelievable!
Just hasn't quite been on target, and when he was on target in the last end he got a disastrous result. So just one of those things in a game. Sometimes we talk about the way the wee worm turns, and maybe it could be the worm just turning a wee bit differently today.
Yeah, but I reckon that was going probably about 110, 120 kilometres an hour as it whisked past our cameras.
Yeah, we should get the police cameras out to see what sort of speed they were doing.
Man, that had some power behind it.
Yes, and he certainly didn't waste any down. He's taken two of the McIlroy shots out, and they're looking at our screen. Looks like it's more to New Zealand, but that can be a little deceptive as well.
There's a measure called for again here. Well, Aaron Sherriff's going to get to the thinking, well, what do I have to do?
Yes, and
my big guns aren't working. Being very careful with the measure.
Taking two out. They're currently measuring for three and four. Yeah. Three, possibly four, I suspect. Look at Ross Stewart. Here we are. Ross has indicated to us that it's 3 shots to New Zealand, so Shannon McIlroy has gone out to a 19-10 lead, and that's a significant change from 2 days. I mentioned earlier in the piece that in the first test series Aaron Sherriff won the game 21-12 and a brilliant display of bowls by both players, but Sherriff was just unbelievable on the drive. Shannon McIlroy once again just struggled a little. Strong wind blowing that day, and Sherriff once again was just in supreme form, won 21-9. But we've got the turnaround today at this stage, and currently after on the race to 21, we have Shannon McIlroy on 19, Aaron Sherriff.
Now this has gone from being uneasy, I would suggest, for Aaron Sherriff now. 9 down, another 2, and it's all over for Shannon McIlroy.
Yes, you did right, Phil, and I'm just looking at the scorecard, and it's interesting. We see that New Zealand, Shannon McIlroy has scored 4 threes in the game, and 3 of those threes have been in the last 4 ends. So they have a huge impact when a more than a single or a double. So Shannon McIlroy with 4 threes, Aaron Sherriff scored 2 threes. But of the 15 ends we've played, Shannon McIlroy has scored on 10 of them, and Aaron Sherriff on 5, so I guess that's a reflection of the score, of course, and the consistency.
I guess the other thing that Sherriff's going to be thinking about now is that his big guns aren't working, so he can't probably rely on that if it has to get him. Hasn't been able to do it so far. So he is behind the 8 ball, as they say in pool.
Certainly is, but he's responded pretty well on this end. His first 2 bowls are 2 shots. One would be about 300 mils behind the head. The second one possibly 600 or 700 mils. His bowl is coming close into the head. Has it got enough weight? Has it got the right green? Just not very close, and has reduced the count to 1. Sherriff once again very quickly, and they're both playing this backhand way, coming in this direction. The arms are going out. He's not happy with it. He's dropped a good metre short of the head.
You've heard about backhand. A shot of the delivery of Shannon. If you have a look as the arm crosses the body, that's the backhand stroke. This is a backhand stroke. He's thinking about this one, Jim.
Yes, he's actually turned his back on it and is walking back to the mat. He's not very happy with that bowl at all. Just wondered if he needed to go and have a look and head and see the position of the bowls, but I guess he's played a few now, so he should be knowing where things are at. So we're currently with Sherriff shot on this here. Goes back, and once again we'll play the backhand and looking to get us count of 2.
Well, with a 9-point deficit, I'd say to you that 2s aren't going to be enough, are they? Run a string of them together for the next 3 or 4 ends.
Yeah, but it does a matter of getting some rhythm going, and what can happen, and as we saw in the earlier stages of the game, you can get a run and you can score a number of shots on ends in a row. So, like the first 5 ends that were played, McIlroy scored 8 shots. Just kept the momentum going, and once you get momentum going, it can keep running for you. But anyway, just pick up the single there, so we're currently 16 ends gone and 19 shots to 11. Yeah. Once again, Sherriff has gone back to Matt, right back on the 2 metre mark, and the jack right up on the 2 metre mark at the other end. So we're back at a full length end.
Oh, you won't be happy with it.
Very, very short bowl, yes. You'll not be happy with that. We have got a little bit of wind coming across. I wonder if that had an effect. Yeah.
That wind coming from left to right as we look at it on our screens. This is a better McIlroy.
Yes, it is. Well,
just turn more down. It just puts that little bit more pressure on the Australian.
You know, part of it is the bowl's actually beyond. It actually is still, even if it's not particularly close at this stage, it's got opportunities later on to come into play. So
yeah, it's certainly counting.
Looks like Sherriff has come up short. Would be at least a metre out from the jack. Could possibly be shot, but wouldn't be 2 bowls in this end. Well, Phil, we've seen some very good ends, some very tight ends, but this is perhaps a wee bit one of the looser ends that we've seen. The closest bowls are at away from the jack, possibly more. Sherriff remains on the forehand. Has he given it more weight this time? I think he has, Phil.
No, I think you're right, Jim. Well, they say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Maybe Aaron Sherriff is a toughie because he's getting going here in an interesting stage. 19-11, end 16. We're playing 17. McIlroy's put a bit of weight on this one. You can tell in bowls, can't you, when it's getting a little bit tight because drop out there when that bowl went down the green.
Just was a touch narrow as he came through to the edge on the jack, but didn't pick it up cleanly. So at this stage it's 1 shot to Sherriff. Sherriff playing his last.
Yeah, Lenny.
To get another shot closer than what he's got at the present time. certainly looking to score 2.
Yeah, does he need to follow it all the way down? I think he's going to.
The target just over to his weight now. Has he got the correct weight? Oh, he's touched the jack. Has he touched it too far?
Has he promoted it onto Shannon's bowl?
Well, be happy that he's moved the jack. Can't get an indication from either of the players who's got shot or what's happening there.
It's going to be out the drama a little bit more. And is it going to be 2011 or is it going to be 1912? And then again, what can this man do?
Looking at this, we're walking back to the net, and I'm looking at Ross Green, and he's 4 looks at this head, and he has not given us an indication as to who's got shot. So it's rather difficult from our position to determine. So we'll just have to wait till the.
Back there talking to the coach, and he had about a quarter of an inch in the old language between thumb and forefinger, so it's very, very.
He's having a discussion with Terry Shot just to determine the shot that he should be playing, and I guess the risk level as well.
But he needs 2 to win this. We think he might have 1, but we don't know.
Just wonder whether there was a possibility of playing a shot, which he hasn't elected to do, of course, but which would have given him a chance to win the game, and that was to play the jack through to the back, and that may be the question that he was asking. We've just seen Aaron Sherriff pick up the jack, so it's 1 shot to New Zealand. So Shannon McIlroy's gone into the all-but position of 20 shots. Gee, what a dramatic turnaround in the scoring though. You know, we've seen some excellent bowls, but 11 shots to 11 when he was basically comprehensively 2 games. It's big turnaround, Phil.
And you know, they say that rugby's a game of 2 halves. Well, this bowls competition's been a game of thirds, because the first third, the Aussie came back, and now it is all the man in black, the blackjack.
Yes. If we just recap a little bit, so after 5 ends it was 8-0 to Shannon McIlroy, and then after 10 ends it was 10-9 to McIlroy. Come back from the Australian, and then we go through to the 17th end, and McIlroy lead of 20-11, so that's the 3 stages that you were talking about.
So McIlroy's had his first bowl, and that's there or thereabouts. That one's a little bit underweight there from the Australian.
Yeah, McIlroy on the mat. Both bowls are just a bit over a metre away from the jack. On the backhand side of the green. That one also is about a metre short of the jack, so just loosen this end, Phil.
I think they're just building the drama, Jim.
I think they're trying to keep it. He's got a shot all the time. Sherriff, what a wonderful bowl from Sherriff, right on top of the jack.
No need to guess anymore.
No need to guess. 1-2 Sherriff at this stage.
Well, you can see on the scoreboard, McIlroy just... The Australian needs a miracle.
McIlroy's bowl's coming into the head, getting very close to the shot bowl, just sitting in behind it. Won't be unhappy with that shot.
Very much in play. There's a reply from the Australian.
Opportunity here, Phil. If the shot bowl gets touched, The jack is going to spray. Aaron Sherriff won't want to be touching it.
Oh, and he has.
He's just touched the shot. Oh, what's happened? Possibly still lying shot. Maybe not. McIlroy's having a very close look at it.
Well done. You can still draw there if you like.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Aaron Sherriff's in trouble, you wouldn't know it from his face. You wouldn't want to play poker with any of these guys because you think expressions. Even Shannon, who's probably thinking, gee, I've just about got this. No sign.
So we'll see McIlroy, and I suspect he'll come down the forehand this time. Meanwhile, Aaron Sherriff's gone away over to the side of the rink and is talking to his coach, Steve Glasson, one of the greats of the game in Australia. And it's his first time on the scene in the coach. He's got his advice and he's coming back. McIlroy bowl comes into the head. How great is that ball?
How close do you want it to be, Jim?
What a great shot from Shannon McIlroy. Jack has actually moved the jack slightly forward, and he would have shot, possibly, yes, he's only got one shot and the Australian will have second shot, but man, the Australian Sherriff has got a difficult shot to play here. The head's not set up particularly well from Shannon McIlroy.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Under all this pressure. Coming back from two comprehensive defeats in the two previous matches that these guys have had, to turn it round like that and now to have shot. Now what is the Australian going to do here, Jim, in his position?
Oh, panic.
Go to the bar? No, that's not an option.
That's not an option.
I think that's certainly what he's doing. Now, is it going to be on target? It is on target. Now, where's the jack gone?
Jack's gone in the ditch, and I believe the Australian bowl's in the ditch. We've got marking the shot bowl. So, yeah, Australian toucher, and of course it's touched the deck on the original course. It's gone into the ditch, and Ross Stewart has just indicated to us that yes, Australia have scored one. So what a slight edge on one of the front bowls, but what a great shot under a lot of pressure.
Well, the pressure is absolutely immense here. This all-important of this TransTasman test, singles contest. The scoreboard, you think, no, it's not that. But I tell you what it is, and I hope eyes on the edge of their seat watching this singles competition, because you've got to admire the fighting capabilities of Aaron Sherriff, but equally you've got to admire the brilliant bowling of Shannon McIlroy. Last two ends, but he's got quite a mountain to climb.
Yes, he has a score at 20. And of course Sherriff leads off the first bowl, and that's a reasonably close one as well, so good start from Sherriff. Both playing on the forehand directly. Playing his first bowl.
Yeah, just poke my nose in right now, just the right. Yeah.
It's not a bad one. Brilliant bowl.
Used. It's a great bowl from Shannon McIlroy. You don't get any better than that. It's sitting right directly in front of the jack, and automatically it is more difficult because he can't see the jack, and it's just psychologically it's just a more difficult shot to play. And I suspect he's elected on the ball around the back because it's going to have to be some weight played to get rid of the shot ball.
And he's hoping across to trail that jack and get his shot back again, but the way this guy's bowling, I mean, wow.
McIlroy will be looking to get reasonably close to the head, but preferably just in behind. He doesn't want a short bowl or a side bowl that Sherriff could actually.
Oh, this is another brilliant display here from the Kiwi. That's exactly what you see. That's exactly what he did. Are you pulling your strings?
I don't think he could have picked the ball up and gone down there and placed it in a better spot.
I think you did right. Shannon McIlroy holding the upper hand at the moment. But this guy, man, like any Australian, he just doesn't know what he's beat.
Oh, well, that's the class of the players, you know, and that's excellent. So, yeah, Sherriff has just gone not quite the way he was looking for. He's gone to the back, but you'll see Shannon McIlroy now must go right to the back of the green. Only looking for cover. He's holding game position. He has to provide some cover for himself. He's got the weight to get right around the back. Right. He would have ideally wanted to be beyond that. But I think we'll see Sherriff will come back and will drop. There is really no other option left to him. He's got to score, and all.
Well, we know he's got the power to do it, and after that last end, he's back on target. No, he's loosened up the big shoulder muscles again. This one's coming down like a rocket ship, I would think. Yep, here it goes. Now, is he on target? Kiwi bowl, he has. He's killed it.
What a great shot again. The only option he had, and he's played it perfectly. Jack's gone flying right across to the other side of the green. Great shot, Aaron Sherriff.
Well, he survives.
Well, he survives another end anyway, yes. He score, but yeah, what a great end. Yeah. Shannon McIlroy played it perfectly. Aaron Sherriff with his last ball. So, what a great end.
If you're throwing lightning bolts like Aaron is, how frustrating is that for Shannon? Because he's built that end perfectly, he did everything absolutely bang on, and then this guy comes and destroys it.
Yes, it can have an effect. Shannon's not thinking about that at all at this stage. All he's thinking about is where I put this jack for the next end and where I'm going to put my next ball, because that's history. You can't change what's happened. You've got to get over it very, very quickly, and concentration going again.
So once again, it's the Australian leading off here. How many times have we said this during this game? That is a perfect bowl.
Very good opening bowl. Yes, gone just beyond the jack, but a very good opening bowl. Shannon McIlroy looking very closely at his ball. It looks like it's just going to duck in underneath the head and perhaps a little short. Yes, he won't be happy with that opening bowl. Don't even get the words out, and Sherriff is on the mat and the ball's on its way.
And that's another very good bowl.
Yeah, two excellent opening bowls from Sherriff, so holding two very good shots.
Now we mentioned these guys, but I guess you would expect that they're Shannon's, Aaron I should say, is 10 years of age, got the bug from his dad.
Yes, yeah, it's interesting that we've got some information here that Aaron talks about how he started early, and he started with his family, and his family is a very important part of his life, and I certainly know from Shannon as well that his family's been a very important and and he receives tremendous support from them. So I know all the people back up there in Gisborne will be, in the East Coast area, will be thinking of Shannon. And Aaron, as we said, started the game when he's 10, and I'm pretty sure that Shannon was somewhere around the 8 to 10 year old mark when he started as well. So the guys have been playing bowls for a few years. Yeah, we have this vision of which is available in a lot of numbers, and that's great. It's an opportunity for them, and it's a great exercise. Great to get them out there on the greens, and which they thoroughly enjoy. But it's a sport which can be played by ages. So, I guess we're lucky really in many respects, and that's another similarity that it has to golf as well, that it is a sport which is available to all those different
Well, it's got much more a larger foothold in high schools and under 25s.
Yes, yeah. The schools program is increasing dramatically, and that's our future. We must have a program, and I guess there was a perception there, and particularly in the earlier days when we tried to get established in the schools, the perception was that, hey, this is not for me, this is for older people, and that perception, fortunately, has changed. And I've just seen we've got a youth group in Dunedin. Secondary school bowls program, and this year the numbers of them playing in the secondary school competition from last year. So I think that's a dramatic change. Anyway, look back to the head. We've got Aaron Sherriff, and he's on his last bowl, coming in towards the jack. He'd be looking to turn the jack back with it. Yes, he's got the jack, and he's sprung it right back to the back. One down, and he's pushed it back, and he's holding 3 shots, but McIlroy's got 1 bowl. So, is it the winning shot?
Well, I'm just not going to say. I thought the winning shot years ago, but it wasn't. The Australians certainly on the cover. Really, all Shannon's got to do now is draw it close to the jack.
Shannon's got to draw
Sounds easy.
Yeah, if he doesn't and he fails, of course, Australia pick up a 3 and the score goes out to 20-15. What happens to the mindset? Well, all that.
And if it does go out to 20-15, Australians scored 6 unanswered points.
McIlroy on the forehand, which he most of the game.
I think he's on target here, Jim.
Certainly got it out very wide, but it's coming back towards the jack.
He knows.
What a great shot. Look at that, straight right on top of the jack. What a great shot to end the game. So after 19 ends, and we have Shannon McIlroy from New Zealand has turned the tables on the Australian. Aaron Sherriff come up with a win, shots to 12.
Well, what you heard Jim say, and Shannon McIlroy, he knew when that ball was 3/4 of the way down the ring, he knew that it was going to be the target bowl, and it was. 21-12, the final important day 3 of the TransTasman from the Waihopai Bowling Club in Invercargill.
After 2 wins against Shannon, that must have been a bit of a surprise to you.
Oh, no, not really. Shannon's a quality player. We've been playing against one another for years now, through the juniors and now into the senior ranks. So had a really good game in him, and he proved that today.
Looking through the stats, it looked like a game of 30. Got away to a pretty good start, but then once you got control of the mat and rolled the longer ends, you seemed to come into your own. Yeah, that's my favourite length, the longer end. So to be able to get the mat and play that was good. But Shannon was quality on all lengths today. So very. And just finally, it looked like your drive might have deserted you a little bit today. You weren't quite on target like you were yesterday and the day before. Yeah, no, I missed a couple probably crucial drives today. That's all part of driving. Some days it comes off, some days it doesn't. So, no, more credit to Shannon today. He played very well and deserved the win. Right, well, commiserations, but in the scope of the test, still plenty to play for. Absolutely, our boys are going really well in the 4s at the moment, and then pairs and triples this afternoon. So, anything's possible. Shannon, it must feel pretty good to get a win back off Aaron. Yeah, definitely. Last couple of days, he's played pretty well. Put me under lots of pressure, and which led to him winning the games. So it's good to come out and play consistently well and get one up on him. How much was the wind a factor? Because yesterday was very windy. Today the conditions quite good. The wind's hard all the time. I think overall, generally, I think New Zealand's a bit more windier than Australia, so we sort of can deal with frustrations, I think, in that aspect a little bit better than them. But it's very hard. These guys are very skilled. And the last thing you want is a bit of wind to affect the bowls. Ultimately, they push a lot of bowls out of play. It was kind of a game of thirds. You got a great start, and then he came back at you. We were a little bit worried that he sort of picked up 6. No answer from you? Well, I thought I try to just change a wee bit of the length, and I threw it too short. And because we had played the last sort of 3-4 ends length, so I tried to change it through a wee bit short, and he stretched it out, which made my radar go out a wee bit, but I was able to win the end and get back on the horse.
Great result for you, because he told me you've been playing each other for a long, long time, and a great result for New Zealand in terms of the Test series.
Yeah, I mean, I've played Aaron ever since I think I was 14 when the very first New Zealand under-18 TransTasman came out, and he played in the very first one, and I did too. So ever since, the last 10 years, I've played loads and loads against him. Had a lot of good games. I think on me, but I have beaten him a few times. But yeah, obviously a good start for us. If we can come out this afternoon and win 2 games, then we wrap up not only the men's series, but the overall and all the trophies.
Just finally, today we've seen with both you and Aaron, both under 30, young guys. What is it that makes a young guy decide to take up bowls on the east coast of the North Island?
I think a lot of it is due to family. If your family plays, the reason why a lot of young people play, it's not really a sport that attracts the eye of just a teenager walking down the street. Normally if your parents or some relative plays, you normally play. But I mean, they've got systems in place now, like business house bowls and stuff like that, that are attracting a lot more people that probably never played the game. So it's good to see when you go from club to club and you see a lot of twilight bowls, business house bowls, and also with the school people. So it's really good. I think the future's real promising.
I quit work, and we become as damn near so... You're totally insane. Jerry, we've never been saner in all our lives. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got 300 weight of spuds to put in.
The Good Life, Sundays at 7:30pm, repeats noon and 6:30pm. Proudly brought to you by Balakai, 808 North Road, Invercargill.
Riverside Rentals. The leader of the pack when it comes to reliable rental vehicles. In style today with one of their luxurious, economical, spacious vans. Get out of the 70s and into a Riverside rental today. Corner of Fox and D Streets.
At Dyax, gardening is our past, present and future. We supply not only Southland, but New Zealand with all their gardening needs. Extensive nurseries. Our landscape service is second to none. We have all the bulk gardening supplies you'll need, as well as statues and garden water features. We're more than just a gardening store. We're part of the Southland family, owned and operated locally for over 100 years, and we're still growing.
Dyax Nursery. We're still growing. Yeah, no.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the Test Series, coming to you from a sun by Hope High Bowling in Invercargill in the Deep South. Scott here with you, and we're into the second of our televised matches today, and it is the women's pairs. And you've joined the action just as it has started. And Jim Scott, you've been running up and down the stairs, chasing all the details. You know what's gone before. I know that New Zealand's won the 2 previous tests, but the numbers don't exactly tell the story.
No, I don't believe they do, because in the first test, I know that New Zealand were down something like 11-0 or 11-1, something along those lines in the first game, and they came back very at 16-13, so it was a huge comeback. And once again in the second test yesterday, they were down once again, but not quite to the same extent. But once again came charging back and won that one 16-15. So it's been 2 games where they've come from behind. But some interesting scenarios within the Australian team, because after the first test, the Australian triples, which was Kelsey Cottrell, and came over and skipped the pairs along with Lindsay Armitage, who was the lead. So that happened in the second test, and in today's test we've got a scenario where the skip and the lead, so Kelsey Cottrell, who was skipping yesterday, is leading today, and Lindsay Armitage, who was leading on to skip. So yes, it's made some changes, and two very tight games so far, but it's interesting that they've made those changes.
And so far as we know, it's status quo in the New Zealand team.
Yes, status quo, yes. This is a combination which has been for many, many years, and even prior to playing bowls competitively together, they certainly formed a very formidable duo on the soccer field with a lot of others, of course, and so they've had a lot of fun playing sport together for a long time.
And it shows in the thoughts and the way they combine too, doesn't it? They are a formidable pair, as you so rightly said.
Well, they gel together, and yes, part of knowing each other, knowing a lot of details about each person. So certainly Joe and Val have spent a lot of time on the sporting field and a lot of time in their and leisure time as well together. So and I guess that shows through the results. I mean, if we have a look back, they are the current world champions, and they won the World Bowls Gold Pairs in 2008, Val and Joe. And that same year in 2008, won the gold medal at the World Bowls in the singles. So, just their record just really speaks for itself.
And currently ranked 1 and 2 in the world.
Yes. Well, it was interesting because I was of the opinion, I think Val Smith did get to number 1 in the world, but currently Joe Edwards has taken over from that. So Joe's number 1 in the world, and Val is currently. We've got two of the best players that we're going to see this afternoon.
So once again, Jim, we're going through this feeling out period, aren't we? Although, well, for Joe and for Val, it's probably not so much a feeling out period. They're so used to their play, but for the Aussies, it's once again getting into sync with each other and then getting into sync with their opposition. We saw this, didn't we, in the men's singles earlier on today?
Yes, it is, and very much just getting settled in for a start, and the most important part is when you come on and you're playing on a new rink that they haven't played on before. So the most important thing is they've got to determine the line and where the bowls are actually going, and of course the weight. So they're getting a feel for it in the early stages. Of course they have had trial ends just before the start of the game, but once they get settled in, of course the game proper starts, and that's when they want to be landing on the jack.
We've got now the game proper. This is the TransTasman Test Series. It's the all-important third and final day, third and final test. And it's nip and tuck at the moment, Jim.
Yes, it is. Well, within the women's scenario is the New Zealand woman won the first test and won that 3-1. And in the second test, they also won that 3-1. So they retained, or they've taken back the trophy for the women. But however, their pride is very much on the line from both sides, and they will be both trying to achieve a win in the last game, because on the individual series where the men play one and the women play a series, there is an overall trophy as well. And currently New Zealand are ahead in that. Going into the last round with 4 games, if New Zealand win one of those games, win the overall trophy. So there's a lot of pride on stake this afternoon.
And it'd be nice if we could wrestle the trophies off the last year.
Yes, well, I guess from a New Zealand point of view, that's what we're looking for. But from a perspective, of course, that's what they're trying to achieve as well. Eh? And there is no competitor than an Australian, in particular, on the back foot a little.
Absolutely, and never a more truer word spoken in sport. And certainly this TransTasman has got the people out here watching what is some pretty high-class bowls.
I believe the standard has been and if we've got number 1 and number 2, we've got number 1 and 2 countries in the world, and we have number 1 players in the world, we would expect the standard to be very, very high. And they've played in some difficult conditions over the last 3 days with a lot of wind, so it's been very difficult. I see that this afternoon the wind has got up a little bit, Phil, but I'm hoping that it won't interfere too much with their game.
That's right, this is the afternoon session of the TransTasman Test Series, third and final day, and as you heard Jim say, the weather is a concern, although the sun is beating down fiercely, as it's known to do in New Zealand, but that's looking at the flags here from the commentary position, and they're sort of standing straight on the pole, so it is getting up That is as the forecast predicted though, later on this afternoon.
Yes, I think we're because the forecast on about Tuesday and I think even on Wednesday was for a considerable amount of rain in the south. Fortunately, the weather forecasters haven't quite got it right, so we're out here today in beautiful sunshine, so that's great.
And you'll see from time to time in our coverage the over of the head as it builds nicely. And it looked to me like Australia might have been holding 2 there, Jim.
Certainly got 1 anyway, and yeah, it just could possibly be 2. Jo Edwards with her last bowl. I don't think she's got enough weight. She's just caught up in the front bowl. Definitely 1 to Australia, possibly 2.
So explain to us between the lead and the skip, and not so much the differences, but the description, if you like. Is it up to the skip to, or is it a little bit more to it than that?
Pairs is a very interesting game, and this could take some time, Phil, but it's very interesting because we're currently playing 4-bowl pairs. So the lead plays 4, and then the skip plays 4. So different games of pairs in the world, but this is the official game as recognised by the World Bowl. So this is what most internationals are played under this format. But here in New Zealand, we traditionally play a 3-bowl pairs game. So the lead plays 3, and then the skip plays 3. Australia, and their traditional game of pairs is where the skip plays 2, they swap over, and then they swap over again, and the lead plays another 2, and the skip, and then they swap over again. 2. So it's a big long game and there's a lot of walking in it, but it is a good game as well. You go to Hong Kong and they've got a pairs game up there called Hong Kong Pairs, and it's where the lead plays 2 and then the skip comes down and plays 4. And the lead plays 2, and the next game that reverses. The skip plays 2 and then the lead plays 4 and then the skip plays 2. So we've got a lot of different varieties of pairs, but if you actually have a look at all the games of it, it's very much about the lead getting a close bowl for a start, because that's really where the game gets dictated from. And if the lead can get in there and set the position up initially, that's where the game is goes from. What can happen, and particularly where you have 4-bowl pairs, if the skip is a very good driver, it can actually come on the game because they can alter so many heads. So it's yeah, quite different in the 4-bowl pairs to the 3.
Well, thank you for that enthralling. I think you lost me with about this could take a while, Phil. But the viewers at home have got it under control now. The upshot of it is it's a first end to Australia. Once again, a fairly lengthy end coming in from Kelsey Cottrell. She's just 20 years of age. We mentioned this before in the men's competition, when for years and years and years people labour under the apprehension that bowls is a sport for older people. Well, this TransTasman test has made an absolute nonsense of that, because in the men's single competition that we've televised for you, none of them had reached the grand old age of 30. And here, as I mentioned, Kelsey just 20 years of age.
Yes, but not only is Kelsey 20 years of age, you've got Lindsay, and she is 27 years of age. And if you have a look at the number of times she's had 158 appearances for Australia, I mean, it's a huge number. And Kelsey Cottrell, if you have a look at her statistics, she's actually had 126 appearances for Australia, and she is aged 20. Kelsey was actually born in New Zealand, so we've got to claim some rights there, but by the same token, she spent most of her life in Australia there, and but they probably should have gone to Invercargill to chase the sun today, but she was in New Zealand and moved over there, and has got stuck into the bowls, and she says in her profile that a lot of thanks to her mum, who's done a lot of work in encouraging her to participate in the sport, and certainly her record is excellent. So Kelsey's got a lot of future ahead of her, even at 20. I mean, she first represented Australia 5 years ago. Now, that's quite hard to work out, isn't it? I mean, it's 5 years since she first played for Australia, so that's 15. we talk of bowlers that haven't even picked up a bowl by the time they get to 15. So I just think it's wonderful for the future of our sport that we've got young people that really enjoy it and thoroughly enjoy the concentration and the dedication they've got to put into it.
Well, she must have been good right from the get-go because she won her first Australian Junior Championships in 2000.
How old was she then? Yeah, that's amazing. Just an absolutely brilliant record. And of course she plays up in, currently is a member of the St John's Park Club, so this is Kelsey we're talking about. She's a member of St John's Park Club in Sydney and plays in the Premier League, Women's Premier League in Sydney, but does generally live up on the Gold Coast area of Australia and certainly Queensland, and she's been in that area, and I guess the climatic conditions they get in generally in that part is excellent for bowls. So we're just having a look at the second end here, and very good bowls. I just got caught on the short bowl. Kelsey Cottrell's just missed out. Val Smith is holding one and also has two other bowls very close to the head.
Coverage today is the women and the men in the pairs, the triples and the fours, they get, which just adds another dimension to it.
It's all about encouragement and supporting their fellow players. So I think enjoy that atmosphere. Express themselves a lot and really encourage the bowlers. I've quite often seen that a lot of bowlers, they talk to the bowls. Got ears, and so they don't listen. But they do, quite amazingly, it seems to encourage the bowls to get closer to the jack. I don't know how that works.
I think we'd be in trouble if the bowls had ears.
Val Smith has just played a very good bowl. She's turned the Kelsey Cottrell bowl back in behind the head and currently lies with two shots. So we see Lindsay Armitage, which is going to come down on the forehand, and it's coming down with weight. And it looks to be on target. Very, very close to getting both bowls out of the head, but she did remove a second shot. So Val Smith currently holding one, and Joe Edwards about to deliver on the backhand, which we've seen throughout the day has been the prominent hand that they have used.
She might let that one go a little bit hard.
Yes, she did, Phil, and it's ended up in behind the head, but having that, it's not in a bad position because we talked about that before, the importance of actually getting some bowls in behind the head, because in a lot of these games the jack is moving around.
And as you said so poignantly, it's not going to move forward. We haven't worked out the reverse spin on the jack just yet.
No, well, amazingly enough, we talked about that this morning, that very seldom does the jack come up. We had one scenario where the jack actually bounced out of the ditch. It rebounded off something and it came up the green, and New Zealand singles we had two shots, and they remained the two shots that counted. He of course had one more bowl and he drew another one, so it was one of those scenarios that we generally don't see the jack coming up.
This is a nice bowl coming in here from Edwards.
Yeah, Joe Edwards, what a brilliant bowl that is, just right close to the jack.
Kelsey Cottrell just telling Armitage exactly where she wants it.
And once again, she's looking to play some weight through on the backhand side this time, but she's a very poor bowl. It's gone right underneath the head.
So there is our overhead shot, as I told you, and that is the state of play, if you like, the construction of the head.
We just saw Val Smith waving towards the head and looking at the yellow bowl, or the canary yellow bowl, which is just in behind the head, and telling Joe Edwards if she can take a turn out of that bowl, all the other shots which are over on the, as we're looking at it now, on the right hand side of the head, she could bring them into play. another very good bowl from Joe Edwards. Kelsey Cottrell's just indicated that she's 3. We see Lindsay Armitage back this time. She's changed her hand again. She's gone back to the forehand and gone back to the drive. Is she on the target?
Right, shot lanes.
Well, she scattered.
She has scattered them, but I don't think she's changed the end result. That she's at least 2 down, possibly even. But there is a scenario here. There's only one Australian bowl in a month. About bowls.
So a chance for New
lead here. So Joe Edwards has elected to continue to draw. Says that we're holding 3. I'll try and draw another one for 4. So coming down the backhand. Not the best effort from Joe Edwards, but 2 balls have been taken out. Having a look at this next one, looks like they want to have a measure. Tape comes out, it doesn't tell lies, it tells them exactly what's happening, so Val Smith there right against the jack, Kelsey Cottrell over against the bowl, and New Zealand bowls in, so that's 3 shots, and they're going to have a look at the shot as well. That's not in, so it's number 3 to New Zealand, and that one's not in, so three shots to New Zealand. So second end, so after 2 ends of the 18 ends which they're playing today, score Australia 1.
Interesting to see what sort of length that Val will deliver here.
Yes, well, she's certainly taken her mat out a good 2 or 3 metres up the green. And is thrown basically length head, so once again electing to go down the forehand side of the green in this direction. Phil, we've seen a lot of bowls in this direction go slightly narrow of the jack. Not too many have set out wide, so maybe they just need a little adjustment back to the jack line when they finish.
So I'm just going to come up a little bit short.
A little bit short, under that jack line.